Hello, welcome to the Reasonably Effective Podcast. This is episode 30, brought to you by myself, Uncommon Fossil, and 10 Types. Why don't you say hello?
Yep. Hello, everyone.
So we are recording this a few days before the Battle Pass resets, before the release of Obsidian Flames, and we see a new Battle Pass. But we've gotten information from Trust Your Pilot's YouTube channel about what's coming.
Which may or may not be legally acquired, but we'll assume it's all good.
It's right, and we didn't post it, so I don't know how he got it. If it's there's issues with it, it's not right.
Exactly.
We're not reporting it directly, so
yeah. But we have reason to well, I guess not. We have reason to believe that it is correct, though.
Correct. It appears that yes, he's done information in advance previously, and it has been correct. However, those channels are that he gets it, and also, I'm not surprised by what he's announced. The basic thing, so the Battle Pass, as you have the basic Battle Pass, and that up to this point has been the strongest card/deck from the new set, and I think therefore the obvious choice for that would be the Charizard, which is I think what we both anticipated, and he's reporting that's what it is. And that's terrific because everybody loves Charizard, and it is a solid card at least.
Yeah, it's probably the best. It's one of the best cards in the set. Probably the best attacker in the set, certainly.
Yeah, I don't know, like with trainers and all that stuff, if there's something.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about another Pokemon as well.
Yeah. So what you're gonna get is from his reporting. I'm not going to go through the whole 60. You can find his video and see what it is there. By the time this YouTube. If I release this podcast, though, the Battle Pass will be up, so you will know for certain what it is anyway. So he anticipates 2 Charizards in the Tier 0 Battle Pass, so you get that for free from day one. That's terrific. And then you're going to ultimately get a full play set by the time you get to Tier 16, because as you're familiar with it, you get cards as you advance up the tiers to enhance these decks. You're going to pick up a third one. Then when you get to tier 50, there's an Illustrator Rare. So you get a full play set of 4, not matching. And then also with Worlds coming up, essentially the same time as the City of Flames, or within a day of it, I believe they're going to give a code that you can enter in and get a gold Charizard. So, and Charizard's obviously like one of the big cards that people like, so it makes sense to me that they're giving that out as the promo with World. So you're going to get ultimately 5 Charizards, so we'll have that to consider. And then you're also getting 2 Pidgeot EXs in the deck. You don't start with that, but by the time you get to Tier 16, you'll get to 2 Pidgeot EX, another very good card. That probably is the other card that might be the other strongest card in the set, correct?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so we'll talk about that. And then on the Premium Battle Pass, you get Toadscroll EX. I don't know if that's quite the way you pronounce it, but that's what I'm going to say, unless told otherwise.
Yeah, no, that's right, I'm pretty sure.
Okay. It's an odd set of vowels for the way.
Well, it's like tentacruel, but it's like a toadstool.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So you get, and it's an interesting one. It's not as good as but the Premium Pass, you have to pay resources to get it, although it should be 600 crystals, which are pretty cheap, so that's fine. But the Premium one always seems to be not as good a card. So, and you get 2 copies of that and a third copy by the time you get to Tier 14. So those are the big cards in those the decks we're getting. And I think we want to talk not so much about what the actual decks are that we're going to get in the Battle Pass, but what we can do with these cards with some different uses. Is that kind of the thought we're doing here?
Yeah, I think so. And one thing to keep in mind is that in around a month after this, we're going to get Pokemon Scarlet and Violet 151, which has some more cards. Notably has another Charizard EX, which is all right. A Pidgey that helps the Pidgeot.
Okay.
But yeah, keep that in the back of your mind if you know what those cards are. But they're not that important to this discussion right now.
Okay. So shall we just dive into the Charizard? Shall I read off the card and what it does?
Yeah.
So Charizard EX, this is a Terra Pokemon, and this is of the newest Terra Pokemon that actually changed types, which fits with the terastallizing, I believe, in the video game. So more. So it changes types. Charizard's a fire Pokemon, but this is a stage 2 EX that is dark type. So you can gives you a different weakness to hit for in the deck, which is nice. And it
And
is
you also have a different weakness yourself.
right.
So you're weak to grass here.
It's weak. Yeah, very good. Yeah, weak to grass, and that's a very good weakness to have. Water weakness is not ideal in the game. Probably will still continue to be suboptimal. So grass is much better there. It has 330 HP, so it's tanky. It's a stage 2, so rare candy or whatever. That's always awkward. And then two things. So it's got the attack, which these are the current translations, but these are unofficial translations. The naming could be wrong. What they actually do should be correct though. So burning dark, it does 180 plus, and it says this attack does 30 more damage for each prize card your opponent has taken. So 180 is okay. I mean, I don't love 180
Like
on a
180 is it's like certainly fine.
yeah.
It's like Arceus numbers, but and the just 180 isn't the main effect of the card either.
No, but it does get better as your opponent the game gets later, right? 30 more per prize card taken. Then it does get good late game in particular. And that has the ability Purgatory Retreat, and that's really the big thing with this card. You may use this ability when you play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon, and if you utilize Rare Candy to evolve it, you're still evolving it. You still use the ability. You search your deck for up to 3 basic Fire Energy cards and attach them to your Pokemon any way you like and shuffle your deck. So that's quite nice. Accelerating energy is always good. Accelerating 3 energies however you like is quite nice. So it does open up options for fire decks or potentially colorless attacking decks too.
Yeah, I think it's I don't know. So obviously, like 3 energy is a solid chunk, but it's a stage 2, so that's awkward.
Right.
Fire does have energy acceleration as well. You have magma basin.
Right.
Um, but I think the combination's nice because you have a solid attack. Hitting for dark weakness is also pretty good right now,
Yeah.
notably against UV Max. A lot of people mention that dark is good for hitting guard for weakness, which is true. But then it also has a lot. Their main attackers aren't dark weak. They only have like one dark weak Pokemon really. I guess yeah, Zacian's metal weak. So
Yep.
yeah, Charizard's like good though. I like it. But
Hmm.
I don't know. I feel like you don't want to pair it with lots of stuff. Some people are like, "Oh, this is gonna make fire good." I don't know. It's not. I don't think you want to put this in. Say, if you have say another fire stage 2, I don't think
Yeah.
you'd have the space for them together.
Well, I don't think. Yeah, I mean, I agree. A fire stage 2 probably not, but I think another fire basic or stage 1 could be an option. I like the idea of I'm not. We'll consider some of these like let's say Arcanine EX, which is a solid Pokemon, right? And
Yeah.
it's stage 1. It's much easier to get up than stage 2, so that's not terrible. It does bigger damage early, so you could use your Charizard, help make sure you get your Arcanine EX set up early on, and then have the Charizard late game for bigger damage then, or some other attacker to pair with. I think that's an option that I want to pursue, especially we start off with 2 Charizards. That's enough to make it not a Charizard attacking deck, but Charizard assisting something else.
Yeah. The one I heard was there are a few things, but there's the basic like Charizard box, and I think in terms of fire Pokemon, you are looking at Radiant Charizard, which is a good Pokemon,
Yeah,
and also the Heatmore, which is pretty solid. That
that's
does
the VMAX, right?
what? No,
No, oh wait, Heat more. No, I'm getting
Heatmore.
confused.
I don't know what you're thinking of, but Heatmore does 90. But if you have 6 energy, you do 180 to one of the bench as well. You could and
Hmm.
you probably pairs with both Charizards. The other Charizard doubles energy. So you can instantly get all the energies on. Obviously, it's a double stage 2, which is awkward. But then you get for a pretty high, you get a very high payout of a lot of damage on a single prizer.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I love that option, but yes, you could do that. I think it gives the option to power up some of the bigger hitting ones. You could consider Charizard V Star. It's not been very good. It's still not very good, but you can certainly give it a go if you want to try to make it work. It's another chance to try to
Yeah,
make
Charizard V-Star
that
is
work.
not that bad either. Um,
No,
but
it's
yeah, I think
280
this would be okay.
HP, 3 energy, explosive fire, 130. Plus, if it has damage counters on it, so you want to use Magma Base, and probably it does 100 more, so 230 for 3. But there's better V stars around than that. But then the Blaze attack for 4 energy, that you can certainly set up with this Charizard does 320, and you discard 2 energy. So that 320 is obviously a nice number to hit with.
Yeah, I think Charizard V-Star is all right. And then I don't know. I don't play as much fire as you either, but I think like Radiant Charger hitting 250 is obviously really good. Um, and that's why I think like Radiant Charger is better than Arcanine. Obviously, it's like a single prizer
Right.
in the basics, so that makes it better. But
Yeah.
yeah, I probably wouldn't play Arcanine. You could play. I heard some people talking about your favorite Pokemon, Entei, with it as well
Okay.
as like something to wait behind as like an attacking Pokemon early on before you
Right.
set up your Charizard as well.
Yeah. Entei's a basic. Um, so a V, so it gives up two prizes. Hits for decent numbers, so damage. So that's an option. Skeledirge, if you want to go another stage two, it would be nice, but you're gonna
I
have
don't think you
problems with
need the
it.
energy acceleration with Skeledirge though. It's only like 2 energy.
Right, it's two energy. It is a tanky one. I haven't tried it actually. At some point, I need to mess around with.
Yeah, I
340
might try it at
HP
some point.
is nice, but having Charizard as a late game option, I don't know. Having multiple stage twos is going to be really difficult though. Um, but we will get to Pidgeot EX, which you might want to put into a Charizard deck anyway. Um, and then the
Yeah,
other was what I think Heatran VMAX.
the one that heals.
Yeah, I was thinking about that one as I was looking through. So that one's 330 HP. It's a VMAX. It does 180 for 3, and your opponent's burn. So getting those 3 energy on is a bit tricky. So Radiant Charizard does help powering it up. So it's essentially a stage 1 of VMAX, right? You have the basic, and you evolve directly from that. And then Magma Gain, once during your turn, if you have a stadium in play, you may heal 50 damage from this Pokemon. So that 330 and you're healing 50 per turn makes it very tanky. I think that's intriguing, is what I'll say.
I think it's interesting, but I feel like you also wanna. It's like meant to be with Magma Basin as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. You probably want to get a couple Heatrans in play, though. So a Magma Basin plus a Charizard to power up, and also, like I said, Charizard hits harder later in the game. I'm wondering Heatran early, Charizard late. I'm not sure.
But Heatran like barely hits more than Charizard in the early game, and not to, in my opinion, to a
That's
meaningful
true.
amount. So I don't know. I think Charizard is a solid Pokemon, but I
Hmm.
think you want to keep it on its own.
So you think like a 4-4 or a 3-4 Charizard EX
Yeah,
slot?
and then maybe a few basics chucked in there like Entei, Radiant Charizard, and maybe Heat more.
Hmm.
I actually saw some lists with Arceus in it as well, which is kind of interesting.
Okay.
Obviously, Arceus like just to help set up.
Yeah, that's interesting. And obviously, then you're getting a third weakness into the deck too, if that's a concern, which isn't bad. And you can always attack with Arceus. It's not a bad thing. You have some flexibility there, besides the
Yeah.
ability. Um, yeah, so I think it's. I mean, I think I'm glad, assuming it's correct, that that's going to be on the basic battle pass. It's one everyone's going to want to get. So I'm glad that they're going to be giving it to us.
Yeah. But next up, I think it's time to move on to the
Yep.
other one with Charizard, which is Pidgeot EX, which you'll get. You said a two Pidgeots.
Yes, you'll ultimately you don't get any with the tier 0, but ultimately you get 2 of them.
Yeah, so I think Pidgeot's a really interesting Pokemon because it allows you to. Its ability pretty much is it's a stage 2 EX. It's colorless,
Yes.
weak to lightning, resistant to fighting. Once during a turn, you may search your deck for a card and put it into your hand, and then you can't use more than one of this ability per turn. And then
Right.
also it has an attack for 2, which does 120 and discards a stadium in play. Also, 280 HP is kind of low it's very low for a stage 2 EX. But then it
Yeah.
also has free retreat, which is pretty nice
Hmm.
and useful in some decks.
Yeah, so you can only use the ability once per turn. So giving us 2 for free, that's all I think you're going to need. We probably don't need to craft anymore. So that's good. Um, the ability to search any one card every turn is really nice. The downs, it's a stage 2 though, so it's going to be deck space and setting up. Those are the questions of how viable this will be. But I mean this one's really intriguing. I think it's probably the most interesting of the cards, and can get considered with a lot of decks. But does it fit in or not?
Yeah, so I think it's good with the Arceus, because Arceus is V-Star power. I've said this before, but it's good because it searches for cards and can get anything, but then you have no other way to access those throughout the rest of the game. With
Hmm.
Pidgeot, then you can help set up Pidgeot using Arceus, and then after doing that, you get to search your deck for whatever you want every turn. So you can have interesting techs of different types of cards. Like with the Intelli engine, you used to be able to
Hmm.
have different trainers. Now you can have different trainers, Pokemon, or even energy.
Yeah, it allows for a lot of one ofs, so you can try to get really tricky, really
Jackie.
teched out and really counter decks, right? Um,
Yeah, I don't think you want to get too techy because this is, at the end of the day, it's not like a super strong engine. I mean, it's good, but you might want, I don't know, you might even play barrel with it. I'm not
mhm.
sure, because you're not seeing a lot of cards using Pidgeot. You're just seeing one extra card.
Right, which is good, but it can always be that supporter too to draw cards too. So if you need,
Yeah, no, it's not bad, but there's like Gallade gets your support every turn as well as being part of the Gardevoir engine.
yeah, I mean, now when we said this before to me, you take your Arceus's ability, you search for the Pidgeot in the rare candy, then you use your Pidgeot and you search for one card. So I've gone from two cards with Arceus to one card that
But
turn.
it's extra cards throughout there, so
I
and
know,
also you probably
yes,
have like something in your hand, like
hopefully you do.
yeah,
But it's a long term payoff rather than the short term is the bigger
yeah.
thing. So I think to me, I'm thinking stage two decks, right? And any deck that plays rare candy, I think you got to think about this card. Obviously, you always have deck space issues with stage two decks, but since you already have rare candy in the deck, I think you got to consider it, right? From my standpoint.
Maybe I think I don't know. So we're gonna talk about stage twos a little bit later, but a lot of them aren't that good. I don't know. I don't think Pidgeot's. I think Pidgeot in general isn't amazing because it's like you're burning your rare candies
Hmm.
to do this. Like you need a rare candy for Pidgeot and a rare candy for your attacker, and then you're gonna run out of rare candies. I don't know. I don't hate Pidgeot in like stage two decks, but it's a lot of space. Um,
You have to think it through. It's not like a guarantee, but I think if you have a stage two, if you have rare candy, you'll have to include another rare candy or two if you're not already playing four. So that's another thing too. But if you're playing rare candies, I think you should think about it. I don't know. Does it go in a Excalibur deck? Maybe not. But
You could, yeah. I think in Shin Pab Excalibur you could.
right.
There, it's not the main attacker of stage two, but I wouldn't put this in a deck where the main attacker is a stage two.
Yeah, I actually think Excalibur could be good because you need those energy retrieval pieces and stuff as the game goes on. You can kind of stall. So this gets you that access. So potentially it's very strong there. Even a Gardevoir deck that you're playing rare candy again, you probably don't put it in there, but I'd think about it, right? You're giving up some deck space, but you are getting a payout long term, right? And that's just what.
Yeah.
And
Um,
Gardevoir's a slower deck too. We know that, but it's good when as it goes on. So perhaps you know,
I don't think Gardevoir needs Pidgeot. I think it already has this strong enough late game that it doesn't need it. And obviously Pidgeot doesn't really help at all during the early game.
no, that's true. You're probably yeah. I don't think it makes sense with that. I think that the Excalibur deck maybe, and the other thing I think is single prize stage twos, which are always intriguing to me and to a lot of people. Right? We like them to work. They're just too hard to pull off generally. Will this make those more viable? Especially with a single prize stage two, because you can fall behind, give up a couple knockouts before you get going, as long as but you're strong enough to come back being down by two prizes, right? So Pidgeot could make a deck like that more viable.
Yeah. Um, so I don't think there's too much to say about Pidgeot. Like the one thing I don't like is, or that to me scares me is there are a number of stage two engines in the standard format right now.
Yeah.
There's that don't like that are good but don't see play. There's Samurott, there's Tinkaton. Tinkaton sees play, but in the Tinkaton deck.
Hmm.
Um, I like Hisuian Samurott, not regular Samurott. There's also Beautifly. Beautifly is like pretty all right,
Hmm.
but no one plays it. So I think that kind of shows that pit stage two engines are awkward. If you need like pieces
Yeah.
to get your engine up and going, that's kind of scary.
No, I agree. It's an interesting card. I'm not sure that it's going to work all that well. I think expanded though, where you have the Pidgeotto from the theme decks, that what you look at the top two cards in your deck, put one in hand, one that goes to the bottom. Then you don't need rare candy because you use Pidgeotto, and then you evolve it to Pidgeot. I think that's interesting. I would
Yeah.
say. And then what's this? You said there's a Pidgeotto coming out in
Oh
151.
no, a Pidgey.
A
It has
Pidgey.
like Call
Okay.
for Family,
Oh,
so
okay.
that's good. But
But nothing game breaking for it. Okay.
yeah, no.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, I think this will probably disappoint, but it's fun to. I'm glad they give it
I
to
think
us.
I think it's good in Arceus, but I don't think it's and maybe Chinpow, but nothing else.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it'll open up Arceus to being able to draw out that one of cards later in the game, so which will make it interesting, I think, perhaps. So,
I think
um,
it'll be kind of like Arceus and Talion, which is a deck you played a bunch.
yeah,
Um, yeah,
so yeah. Anyway, I'm glad they're giving it to us. It is one of the better cards still of what we both think is a weaker expansion in general, but it's interesting. So I'm glad we have it to mess with. And then we'll move on to the third card now. Yes.
yeah. So Toad School EX,
And this is
which
the
has
one
two.
I'm excited about. I know you're
Yeah,
not. So
you wanna read it
yeah,
off?
yeah. Let me do it because I'm excited. You are not. You're a doubter and a hater here. So it's a grass Pokemon, and we know grass is just not very good, right? To be quite frank. So, but 270 HP on a stage one. So okay. Um, and then it's got an attack here, Colony Rush. It does 80 damage plus 40 more for each um, benched Pokemon with grass energy attached. It doesn't have to be a grass Pokemon,
Each
but
of your bench Pokemon.
each of
I'll
yours.
clarify.
Sorry, yes, each of yours. It doesn't have to be a grass type, but it has to have grass energy. Um, so that's up to what 200 damage if you have a full bunch of five with energy on it. So that's a lot of pieces, and
Well,
that
200 additional damage,
right.
so
So which gets
280.
to 280, and that's the number. That's a really great number to get to, obviously. So potential for that, as long as you get. You need five on the bench and two on your attacker. So all you got to do is get seven energies into play, and all these Pokemon, it sets itself up obviously
Exactly.
easily.
You're like, this is insane. This is 280 for two, and I was like, no, it's 280 for seven.
I know it's I know, but and then it has this ability, guardian deities. A lot of these times these ability names aren't correct, so I don't know. So don't that may be wrong, but it prevents all effects from attacks from your opponent's Pokemon done to all your Pokemon that have energy attached. That's nice. So because you want to get energy on all your bench Pokemon, so now Sableye is a big one, right? Does no damage to any of your Pokemon if you get yourself set up, and that is a plus. So that ability pairs well with the attack. So I do like that about it.
Yeah, although the ability is already in the format, I believe, identically with Espeon VMAX.
But this pairs with the attack also, right? I mean, it's right because
Yeah.
you don't want to have to throw it. It's better not have to play an Espeon in this deck also, right?
Well, yeah, no, but this is good. Like, some people are saying it's just gonna like destroy Lost Zone. Like this card is gonna be like the end of Lost Zone, which it won't be, based on what we've known before.
No, now Espeon is the VMAX, right? So it's a
Yeah,
three
so it's
prizer. So here's
different.
two
Yeah,
prizers.
this could be Tech and Zoroark, which is kind of interesting.
Right.
Um,
Again, I think it's a nice ability to put on this Pokemon when you're playing this deck. That's really. I don't think it's bust breaking Lost Zone, but I think I like the ability on this Pokemon. Is what I'll say.
yeah,
Um, and obviously, like you said, setting up's an issue. Um, I don't remember exactly what they're going to give you for the deck. This is a weaker deck. I think both the one at tier 0 and probably the upgraded one. I'm intrigued by the notion of putting it with Fortress EX. I know you're a hater there too, but I love giving up two prizes anytime I can to my opponent. So I get to do that, fall behind, show my skill by coming back. But it does get five energies into play, right? As the serious part. So you need to get a lot of energies in play. So that will set you up pretty quickly then. So on turn two, you could be doing 280 damage potentially,
yeah.
right? With Fortress.
One thing to say about that is that after you KO the Fortress, you won't have a full bench anymore.
That's okay. I see. I saw that one coming, but obviously, look, you attach turn one to your um, Toadstool and Toadstool the active, and then turn two, you get the second energy on your attacker and one energy on the four bench Pokemon that stay. You play down from hand that other basic Pokemon and the grass energy in hand because I have all those pieces, and boom, turn two, 280 damage.
It's pretty easy.
I don't see how I'm not going to pull it off every turn, right? It sets
Mhm.
itself up. Now, obviously, you got to get all these Pokemon in play. Not easy. Yeah, it's not easy, but look, it's intriguing. It's a reach, is what I'll say. Right? It's not going to be the strongest deck in format. I think it is doable though, right? And even without a full bench, let me think. What do you need to get like to 220? You need three Pokemon does 120, so that gets to 200. So you need four on the bench to get to 240, right? So, yeah. I mean, 3 on the bench isn't great. I guess that's the unfortunate part.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how to set it up, how to build. You got to put on your thinking cap and get together the right 60. But that's okay. That's part of the game, right?
Uh, yeah.
You just don't
This
like
isn't.
this.
I don't think this is a particularly good card,
So you
and
think
I'm crazy for thinking that. But
Charizard's good, is pretty solid. Pidgeot's okay, and this is
I
not
think
good.
Pidgeot's like about as good as Charizard. It's
Okay.
more universal, but it's also it's a little more I guess like wait, which I said Charizard's like more powerful, but Pidgeot's
hmm
more universal.
Okay, right. Charizard's going in either a Charizard deck. Is that from your standpoint, or possibly some Fire box deck? Fire box decks they've been good in the past. Right now, they're not, but maybe
Yeah,
maybe that.
with like Welder, one of the best supporters ever.
Oh, this gets 3, and you still have your supporter. Welder got 2, and you didn't get another support, and your supporter was used up. So accelerate 3 and play a supporter. Isn't that almost better?
Um, I personally don't think it's better than Welder. You
Okay.
never know. You never know.
Well, but then I can play my research or my Iono that same turn, right?
Mhm.
After I use this ability, potentially. Again, you need all the I'll need all the pieces to come together. So basically, it sounds like you're saying all these cards are bad. So that's what I'm
Well,
hearing. So this is not a set that's going to redefine the meta or shake it up a lot, probably. Fair to
yeah,
say.
probably not.
But look, I think these are all nice pieces to have, all nice things to mess around with. The Toad Scroll is probably the one that you could live without. I want to mess around with it, so I'm glad to get it. It is a good chance it's not successful though, too.
Yeah. I think as I think it's better than Fortress, but it's not like that much better than Fortress.
No, and
Which is
I
bad.
really do think you have to pair it with Fortress, though. I really do, because you
Well, you can do
need
Cherim.
you can do Cherim. I think Fortress will be more consistent than Cherim. That's the problem,
Yeah, I
and
know.
that's
I think
not
that's
good to
true. But
say.
you're
But
giving up no, but well, yeah, but you give up 2 prizes.
well,
That's which is good.
yeah, no, I get it. That's part of the challenge, right? You got it. You're not up for a challenge. That's the problem. You
I'm
just
up
want to
for a
play.
challenge, but I'm not up for this challenge.
So, anyway, I mean, I think we've covered these cards enough. Would you agree?
Yeah.
So that's what we have, or that's what we anticipate we have. And
So,
still am
um,
glad we're getting them. So go ahead, take
yeah.
us off.
So obviously those cards weren't too good. But we've decided to take it into our own hands and fix Pokemon.
Yes.
So we each have a few cards here that we're gonna take a look at. Should I go first?
Yeah. So when you fix Pokemon, though, it's not fix the game of Pokemon, not fix live, because that's well beyond us.
I've already done that with
You've
my diss
sorted
track.
that out. So,
I,
but this
I
is
I
how
dealt with it.
I think. But this is how to
Granted.
fix certain cards that just aren't very good, right? It's certain
Yeah.
specific Pokemon cards. So,
Yeah, we're saving Pokemon.
yeah. All right.
No,
Go.
so I'm gonna start off with one of my favorite Pokemon here,
Mhm.
which is a new Pokemon, a new Gen 9 Pokemon,
Yep.
sometimes called Minecraft Donkey Kong. That's Garganackle.
Yeah. So 180 HP stage 2. So the other stage 2s were bad. Somehow this one. Well, I guess this one is bad now, but you're gonna make it good.
This one's definitely worse than theirs.
All right. You want to tell us what it does, because this is
Yeah.
your pick.
So 1 HP fighting stage 2. 1 HP is like decent, but its
Yeah.
ability here is Blessed Salt. During Pokemon Checkup, heal 20 from each of your Pokemon, 20 damage.
Yep.
So if you don't know what Pokemon Checkup it is, it's between every turn. It's like a phase. So if you know Magic, there are like phases. There are also phases in Pokemon, technically, but no one really pays attention to that. And so you have the thing in between turns, which is at the same time as poison.
Right.
I guess if you're poisoned, then it would KO you, but this would save you. You might be able to do it in the order you want. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't
Do you
know,
know?
right? If you're burned no, that's a good question. If you're burned, well, I mean, do you do it before if you need to heal the 20 to avoid being
Yeah,
knocked
I
out?
think you can.
I mean, you'd like
I don't
the
think you have
option.
to. I think you have the choice.
That would be ideal because, like, let's say you're burned but haven't been damaged yet. You'd like to heal after the burn damage is put on too. So,
I do know there is an order of resolution for the special conditions,
hmm
but at the end of the day, like live doesn't probably do it right anyway, so it doesn't matter.
well, in certain things are player choices. I can't remember
Yeah,
some of the interactions. The player gets to choose what order they want them in. So,
yeah. But anyway, you also
yeah,
have an attack here for 2 fighting, which isn't particularly payable, but not like impossible either,
yeah.
which is 130 knocking hammer. Discard that you also discard the top card of your opponent's deck.
So a super
So,
slow mill deck here is what we're looking at.
yeah.
Okay.
So it's also weak to grass and has a retreat cost of 3.
Yeah.
So I think the best part is definitely the healing ability. But then you
Yeah.
look at the attack, and it has like some weird mill aspect,
hmm
and the damage isn't like the worst thing you've ever seen, but it's pretty underwhelming.
Yeah.
And one of the things, obviously, this card's just kind of weak, and it's all over the place as well. And I think that's kind of what part of why I don't like about this card.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah. It has no consistency, no focus. Um, yeah, I would agree.
So I actually didn't prepare exactly how to fix this card, but I think you want to have it. First of all, I think you should probably heal more. I think as a stage 2 healing, essentially 40 every turn because it's 20 between each turn is
Yeah.
not amazing. We got Radiant Serena, which heals 20 every turn, which is pretty good, but not like broken by any means. I think
hmm
Garganackle could be pushed up to 30, possibly even 40. If you have multiple Garganackles, you can use them multiple times, but
Right.
obviously
They
they're
stack.
stage 2s. Also, 180 HP isn't, I mean, it's okay, but you'll be being one-shotted by most Pokemon in the meta right now.
Yes.
Um, I'd say even just pushing it up to 190 is like better
hmm
because it will survive like an Arceus with a double turbo, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree that, I mean, I think the first thing comes to mind is up the HP because it wants to be tanky. That if you make it tanky enough, I would actually increase it somewhere above 200 because I think
Yeah,
the
and I'd probably
attack
put it
isn't
at
good.
like two. Um, I don't know. I might go to like 210. It feels weird if it goes like too high. Um,
Yeah. Well, then it's an attacker, right? I mean, I think the way the card is designed now, and like you said, it is all over the place some, but I think the ability is really all it has going for it. So the idea be you get like 2 or 3 Garganackles on your bench, which is not easy as stage 2, and just heal off with some other attacker, tanky attacker. I
yeah,
think that's
mhm,
what Pokemon designed it for, but
yeah,
it's not really going to be successful.
yeah. And then I think I'd also like to bring in the attack because I don't like when Pokemon just have like an ability, but then they have like an attack that's just kind of useless. Like
Yeah.
Curlia has like a really good ability and just is like 30 for 2, which isn't actually like the worst thing in the world,
hmm
but where is that what it is? If that's what it is, that's actually pretty bad. But like you could theoretically use this. You're like this attack and Garganacl is not good. Um,
No.
so I think it should be like I think the mill thing is kind of silly because discarding one of the top card of your opponent's deck is essentially useless.
Yeah.
There are times when you get super lucky and it is like good, but most of the time it doesn't really matter at all.
Yeah.
And so you have knocking hammer. So I think you should do it. There are 2 ways I could see you taking this. One is you reduce the amount of damage you take. I think that would be an easy thing.
Okay.
Very common. Say you just take like 30 less damage next turn. And I'd
Yep.
probably also increase the damage output because 130 for a stage 2 is not that much.
hmm
And so then it could be more like tanky and then have the healing combined with it. And then I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean the other thing with the attack is maybe you keep the damage about like it is, but go to one energy.
Yeah, I think that would be fair as well. The thing with one energy kind of opens up Cheryl, which is interesting, but also
hmm
doesn't really have synergy with the ability, which I don't really like. So
Right. I wasn't thinking Cheryl, but then you could, if it's knocked out, obviously you can attack the next turn, right? Right now, if you're knocked
yeah,
out, you have to Raihan, so
yeah,
which is a good card, but again, those are pieces you need in your hand, and it's a stage 2 rare candy deck, so it's going to be awkward, unless of course at this point you've got your Pidgeot EX set up and you're flowing, but I'm being sarcastic there, so
yeah. I think the other way you could take this is you have it as a healing based attack, like a support attack, where you say heal a bunch of damage from all your
mm,
Pokemon.
yeah.
It might doesn't even have to do any damage. But it's like one energy, one fighting maybe, or if you from
hmm
your colors, you heal like 60 from each of your Pokemon, or even maybe 80. which is quite strong,
Yeah, it might be
but
too much, but
I don't know. I don't think it'd be too good. Like right now, there aren't any healing attacks, as far as I know, that are good.
mhm.
I'm trying to think. There might be some that heal like a little with their attack. I know Leafeon VMAX used to have an attack, or still does, but used to see a lot of play,
Mhm.
and it had attack that healed like 30 when it attacked, which you'd use occasionally, but it had good damage output. So the healing was just a secondary effect.
Mhm. I mean
But
that's a decent way to go too. Then I think I keep the HP where it is because when you do the attack, you should just get knocked out, right? You want it on a
yeah,
bench
yeah,
Pokemon to heal, heal, heal. Occasionally you send up attack, stick on one energy, heal off somebody on the bench, and that's
yeah, or
okay.
multiple on the bench. I think the idea is it's like spread
A
healing.
spread heal, which fits with the ability.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean I can see that.
So I
Um,
think that's how I'd like it to go. And then I think it would be better because right now like healing's not that good either. There are
right.
healing attacks, but they're awkward as well.
Yeah, no, I can see it, and I think it makes the things you're talking about take it into the possible realm to use it, but it's obviously we're not making it busted either because that's not what we're trying to do.
Yeah, and it's more of like a concept idea as well. Some
Yeah.
of it is changing the numbers, but some of it's like the concept.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, because right now Garganackle is something you like it for what it is, but not for what the
Yeah,
card does.
I think the ability is cool as well. Like Pokemon Checkup is something not really touched too much,
Right.
and it's an interesting part of the game.
Yes. Right. We don't think it right because it's essentially it's healing 40 between your turn and your next turn. So that is nice.
Yeah,
Okay. So the first one I have is one that I love, and that's Cast Form. And actually, I
yeah,
think you were the one that suggested it first, because Cast Form just does come up short. What the Cast Forms have, there's different forms. They have the weather reading ability. If you have 8 or more Stadium cards in your discard pile, ignore all energy in this Pokemon's attack costs. The one I'm looking here on screen is Snowy Form. That has 70 HP. I believe they all have 70 HP. They all have free retreat, so that is nice also. They're level ball searchable, which is good. So 70 HP it's fine. I'm not going to worry about that. But getting the setup of the 8 stadiums is a little bit too tough, and the attacks are okay, but not great. This is one of the better ones. Does 120, and then you can't use that attack. It can't attack the next turn, but it has free retreat. So even if you're not knocked out, you can pivot into your next attacker. There's a fire one that's even probably the bigger
yeah. One damage. thing I want to say about the cast forms is
Yeah,
they do all have a free retreat, so they actually see play as pivots, which is kind of funny. Not too
right.
much play. They're not that good still.
They are a pivot option for decks that need a pivot. And even like with Entei, with anything with Magma Basin that you gotta get from the bench to the active to attack, sometimes you toss in a cast form. It's not
Yeah.
unheard
Although
of.
right now I'd say Cyclizar is probably the best pivot.
Hmm.
It's not lovable searchable though, but I don't think lovaball's played too much anymore.
No, right. We lost the Drizziles and stuff, so that there's less things that's getting used for. Um, but so this one's 120, can't attack the next turn. You have the fire one, whatever that one's called, Sunny Form.
Sunny form.
It does 150, so that's a solid number, I think. And then you discard a stadium from play, so you're playing a lot of stadiums. So that's
You
a
have to discard a stadium in play. So there are occasionally times when you can't do this.
right. So you have to be careful that you're discarding a stadium. You either want to make sure you want to make sure you have a stadium for the next turn if you're going to have to if you need to attack with it again. So again,
Oh, and also if you want to path your opponent, then you can't attack with this because it'll get rid of path.
right, Path or Temple of Sinnoh for the decks where that shuts them down, then you just can't use the fire attacker. So, but I kind of like that, right? Having to think about it, that aspect's okay. Is the damage numbers good enough? That's one question. There's a Rainy Form that does 20 spread to everything, not great. And there's a colorless one that's just Cast Form that doesn't really make a lot of sense in that it does 80 damage, which is less, so that's not real good. And then you draw until 6 cards in hand, but you usually can't use the attack until you're set up, and at that point, drawing cards isn't the big thing. And in fact, you're digging through the deck pretty aggressively. If you use that attack consistently for a few turns, you're probably going to deck yourself out.
Yeah, and so there's one other thing
Yeah.
that I believe because obviously these aren't great, and a lot of them like directly outclass others as well. The fire is like definitely the best.
Well,
The
and the snowy form for 120 without having to discard a stadium.
Yeah, but generally you want to use fire. I think you always play
Hmm.
4 of the fire one and 2 of the snowy form, or 3 maybe
Yeah.
4. But like you'd rather attack. I mean, the fire one just does more. But
Yes.
they are all actually balanced around their regular attack cost as well. So
Yes.
the fire and water are similar. They have essentially the same attack cost,
Hmm.
2 energy of their type plus 1 colorless. The colorless one is 3 colorless, so that's why it's
Yes.
weaker. And
Hmm.
then the spread one is 20 to each, and that's for water colorless, which is obviously less than the other ones. So
Yeah.
that's kind of a weird thing.
Right. So, I mean, so I to me, I've tried this the deck a lot. I've made some videos on it, but it's just not very good. There's a couple things you could do. Right? You could address the
Yeah.
ability. Go
Can
ahead.
I tell you about some other Pokemon that are similar?
Yes,
Do
please
you
do.
know? Do you know the Rotoms?
Which go on. Tell me about them.
Okay, so the Rotoms, they're essentially the same thing. They're the precursor to cast form.
Hmm.
This may be Dark Integral Gaming's biggest video. I don't remember. But I've seen that video and it's a big one. The Rotoms have, say, if you have 9 or more tool cards in your discard,
Hmm.
ignore all attacks in each of this Pokemon's attack cost. So same idea here, except there are more Rotoms. I believe there
When,
are.
when, when was this from, by the way?
This was mid Sun and Moon era, I believe.
Okay.
Um, yeah, so there were, I think, 7 Rotoms. And obviously it's one more. It's 9 instead of 8. But then they're tools, and I think tools are a little more versatile than item and then stadiums,
Yeah.
makes it better. But they're essentially the same idea. But then you have Rotom. This first one, there are 2 regular Rotoms.
Hmm.
The one's psychic and the one's lightning.
Yeah.
Uh, and by the way, the cast forms, all 4 have different names. The
Hmm.
Rotoms essentially all have different names except for the 2 regular Rotom.
Hmm.
But there's the psychic and a lightning for 3 energy, and they can't attack next turn. But obviously, it's free if you have 9 tools in discard. You do 120. So that's a
Yeah.
psychic and lightning. So that's just type coverage. You have a
Okay.
grassed one that does, and these are all 9 tools in the discard to attack for free.
Hmm.
It's 60 and discard a special energy from your opponent's active.
Yep.
So that's not a great attack in terms of damage output, but getting rid of special energy could be nice.
Hmm.
You got Heat Rotom, which is fire. It just does 80. I'd say that's worse. Obviously, it's less damage,
Hmm.
but it's okay type coverage.
Hmm.
Wash Rotom here, there are 2 water ones, but Wash Rotom is a 50 snipe to one of their bench, which is okay. Could be nice, right?
Hmm.
You have
Yep.
Frost Rotom, which does, for instance, a water one. Again, 10 and 20 more for the amount of energy attached to all your opponent's Pokemon. So if they have a bunch of energy in play, this
Yep.
is a solid type coverage Pokemon. And the last one here is Fan Rotom, which is colorless. Does 20 to each, just like the Rainy form, cast form.
Okay.
So you have a lot more options with that. And it was
Yes.
better as well. It was like kind of okay.
Yeah, I mean that you have a lot more options. Cast form is much more narrow what it does. So
Because even though
more.
there you have 4, they pretty much all do this. 3 of the 4 do essentially the same thing.
Yeah, I mean if they took the colorless one and gave it something different that it did, then that could make it better, obviously, than just doing 80 damage, which is just you just really never want to use the colorless one essentially. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, I was trying to think you could put it in the deck and use it as a draw to set up again. I was trying to think through that through, but and then I ignored, moved on quickly past that. But
Yeah. I mean, you can use it like as a again a pivot, which is okay. It's a solid pivot. Because
mhm.
if you're not playing a water or fire deck, that's the one you'd play.
Right. So, but yeah, so the attacks are underwhelming because you're not two shotting. I mean, you're two shotting like a basic V or a basic EX. You're not two shotting
Well, with the fire, you're two-shotting most things.
in most V stars too. You're not two shotting a V Max though.
No, but there aren't too many VMAXs.
Right.
I was a bigger problem when there were more VMAXs. But then if you're two-shotting a 2 prizer, you're just going even. So,
Right.
and then you're setting up slower, so you lose.
Right, because as it is, you essentially even Squawkabilly improves it, but the odds of attacking turn one going second are very slim. So you're hopefully you're attacking turn two. Hopefully, if you don't attack turn two, then
Yeah,
then you
turn
then
2
you're
going
out
first
of it.
isn't even always something that'll happen.
Correct.
Um,
That right. Your turn two going second is pretty guaranteed. Turn two going first is questionable, and if you can't attack turn two, it's kind of game over for you most of the
Yeah, and
time.
you have Squawkabilly, which
Right.
helps it, but then that's a multi-prizer, which obviously gives up, well, multiple prizes, and your opponent can probably one-shot it.
Right. So then I would yeah, I want to play something to get it out of play, like a Thornton or something
I mean,
perhaps.
you can play Collapse Stadium.
Yes, collapse stadium is probably what you're going to do to get rid of it. So, and it's in the discard pile, so you can play like a curly engine or something, which gets you discarding and gives you an engine as the game goes on. So that's good. Um, and like there's are times if I get a really hot start, which is what you want, discarding a lot. I can I'm close to decking out by the because if the game takes, 'cause I'm not getting a big knockout every turn, so it's it's taking 5 or 6 hits to get the 6 prizes, and I've got sometimes I've dug through 30 cards on pretty quickly some games, so that's a little
Yeah.
dicey. Um,
But one thing about the deck is you've said that
yeah,
once you've gotten going, it's very easy because you just put down the
yes,
Pokemon. They literally all have free retreat, so you don't need to worry about switching, and
right,
you just attack. So and you can play Rescue Carrier to get back two.
mm-hmm,
The one
yes.
item card gets you set up for 2 turns, like completely, which is just crazy.
Correct, which is good. And if you're ever, if you play single prize decks a lot and you get in single prize versus single prize decks, one of the winning conditions is either who gets the first knockout or who doesn't miss an attack, right? With cast form, you're not missing an attack, so that's good. Um, but it needs to set up quicker. So, to me, a couple of things to make it better. One, it could give some other type coverage. I guess based on the video game, we can't have more types, but um, in terms of you need
Yeah,
another
we
type or
thought of
two for
some, right?
weakness.
So yeah, so we were brainstorming.
Yep.
So for what type do you want? You wanted to hit lightning, so that would be like
Yeah.
thunder form.
Right. Yep.
Um, and
And
what dark maybe
dark, I think. Yeah. So like a
should
night
be
form.
yeah,
I
or
don't know.
when moon form. I don't know, and then or even like blood moon form. That could be like that's kind of like a
Mm,
weather thing as well.
yeah.
Yes, more so than just the moon.
Yeah. The moon's not really the weather.
Or it could be overcast form. That's kind of like
Right.
rain, but
Yeah.
and then fighting we said.
Fighting a good.
Um,
Yeah. That one we couldn't come up with a good name for
which
it.
is like ground. Which fighting is also made up of ground type. So
Which again
it
doesn't
could
seem
be
very weather.
so let's say let's come up with something. So it could be
Dust
like
storm.
earth dust storm. Yeah, dust storm. That one's good. That
All
one's good.
right. There
Or
we go.
sandstorm. Or sandstorm.
I mean, honestly, if you gave those three types to it, it would be pretty strong then, right?
Um, it may be like let's see. So if it was like the 151, then yeah, even the 120, yeah, it would probably be solid.
Yeah, at the
It's still
120,
awkward to set up.
correct. But if you had those options at
I
about
think
the
it would
one,
definitely be the same level as United Wings if it had the same types as United Wings.
yes, yeah. So the typing isn't good for it. So that's one strike. The damage output could be increased. I mean, that obviously would would help things. If you got like the fire one got up to say 180, then that starts to be more scary.
Like
Up
one shot.
right. It can take out some more things, and probably up the frosty typhoon to at least 140. So you're two-shotting um, a V star, maybe.
Yeah, I think it's okay.
You think 120 is all right?
No, I think it should probably be 140. But no, I presented to you some other ideas as
Mm-hmm.
well. The one
Yep.
was, what if they had a different? So you obviously with like the Lost Zone deck, you have something like say Kramer, which Kramer is actually very similar to Snowy Form, Cast Form. Um,
Yes.
because they hit very similar amounts, except
Right.
Castform, or sorry, Cramorant is get 4 cards in the Lost Zone,
Mm-hmm.
which is easier. And people have literally played straight Cramorant, and it's okay. It's certainly better than Castform.
Yes.
In some ways, it's easier. Like you actually, you get benefit from putting cards in the Lost Zone by either
Right.
obviously getting the cards in the Lost Zone can be good, but also you're playing cards like Comfy and Colvis Experiment, which actually are drawing cards. Unlike
Mm-hmm.
just discarding stadiums isn't like it's just kind of silly.
Right.
And then also, you have other benchmarks after Cramorant. So
Mm-hmm.
there's like if you get 4 in the Lost Zone, you can do something. If you get 7, you can do more stuff. If you get 10, you can do even more. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that would be interesting with Cast Farm. If it was say you have like 2 stadiums, you can do maybe like 50 damage. And
Mm-hmm.
if it was like 4, you could do um, maybe 100.
Mm-hmm.
6 could be um, like 130, and like then 8 could be like 160 or something. I think that'd be better.
But you're talking about different Pokemon, or all in the same
Different cast. No, like different cast
different
form.
forms?
Yeah, so each form
Yeah,
would have a different amount of
the
um
abilities would be different, right?
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the abilities are the other way to change it. So what I mean, the simplest way to do it would be just say to make it 60 in the discard pile, right? That and
For
that
all of
would
them.
right for all of them, and
Yeah.
then that would be a reasonable change, right? It's obviously not going to be overpowered because they're not that strong,
And
but
it's not that easy still.
right, but you're going to be attacking turn two, even going first most of the time, right?
Yeah, you could even attack turn 1 going second. And that's like right now that's not
Right.
reasonable, but it could be reasonable with that.
Yeah, you're gonna. It's not guaranteed, but it's certainly it's
Possibly
viable.
the same amount, the same likelihood as like attacking the Crammer in turn 1. Maybe a
Uh,
little lower, but
right. So, and you could do more damage than that. So, yeah. So that was one thing. Your idea of making different levels of stadiums for different damage effects. I like that. That makes the deck even more interesting. And then obviously how you build the deck gets even more thought. You got to put more thought into that. So that would be nice. Yeah, I also the idea because you talked about Crammer in Lost Zone, but then there's also Sableye. If one of the attacks was like the 120 was rather than doing 120, you put put damage counters as you want, like Sableye.
yeah, I mean that'd be much better.
It
But
would, but it's not easy to set up cast form. Just
I
like
think I
it's
think
a
it
lot of
was well.
work
I
for
think it's I
Sableye.
think it's easier to set up cast form than Sableye.
That's true, but look, it's not going to become a busted deck.
I don't know. It could be. I think if it was the same attack as Sableye, it might be kind of broken. Because
Or
it's easier to like do than Sableye.
yeah,
Um,
maybe you make it 100, or you
yeah,
reduce the amount of damage counters you put. I don't know.
yeah. But I think if they because the like a lot of the cast forms feel very similar, which I think isn't as interesting.
Yeah,
And it makes them worse. So that's how I'd go with it.
yeah,
I'd do one of those two things.
yeah,
Change the. But obviously, it makes it more complicated as well. Right now, they're very simple. I'd say.
yeah. I think we spent too much time on cast form as
I thought
usual.
there isn't.
I know, but some people don't appreciate enough. We're trying to educate the public about the beauty of cast form, which I'm glad you're on board with. I'm glad you brought up the Rotoms. The Rotoms are much more interesting, and bringing some of that into this would be good. So you want to hit us with your next card?
Yeah, so I think this will be the last card I'm going to talk about
Hmm.
that I brought to the table,
Yep.
and that's going to be Solgaleo from Celebrations,
Celebrations.
and it's actually there's a Lunala from Celebrations as well, which I'll talk about first. And there's in some play, mostly like silly stuff. But its first attack here is the main attack. You're going to use it for double the amount of damage counters on each of your opponent's Pokemon
Hmm.
for 2 colors on a stage 2. They both evolve from Cosmoem. So Solgaleo here, I guess Lunala has another attack that does damage. It's an okay attack, but Solgaleo here, its ability Rush In. It says if it's on the bench, you can switch it to the active. We've seen this before. It's actually kind of getting reprinted in Obsidian Flames, but better, I believe.
Okay.
But it's like a stage 2 that just like switches, which isn't that good still. But then you have Solar Geyser, which is your attack here. 100 for 2 colors on a stage
Hmm.
2 again. So this can be teched into any deck, and then you do attach up to 2 basic energy from your discard to one of your bench Pokemon, which is okay. It's kind of like, to me, this is like a bad version of Arceus V-Star.
Um, that's kind of
Like a
funny.
really bad version of
Yeah, I mean it's a
Arceus.
single prizer, right? And
Yeah,
obviously
stage 2.
right, correct. So, and obviously the ability is nowhere near as good. 100 is underwhelming on a stage two, and if
Especially with double turbo when it
right,
goes down to 80.
we're doing 80, yeah, I mean, and it's 2 energies to one. That's okay. I mean, yeah, it's underwhelming. So, I mean, if they even made it 2 energies to however you want for your Pokemon, it would up it a little. Still not be good enough, but yeah, it's a very underwhelming card. The Lunala I've certainly messed around with because that's a nice option, doubling damage counters. But the Solgaleo, honestly, I've ignored. I think for good reason.
Yeah, so I think I don't know. I think the attack could be good. I think it's just not like crazy Pokemon, but I think you
Hmm.
need to up the damage to um I don't know, at mid to upper 100s, I think. Um it would be awesome if it was like 180 damage, maybe 200 damage. accelerate 3 energies from your deck to your Pokemon. That'd be cool.
But that's a little too
Just
much.
No, I think it'd be cool. I think if it was like 150, um, and then I think it was just one. I don't think 150 would be played though. Still, um, maybe I think 160 maybe.
Right, because you're
Um,
often going to play DTE, so you're doing less anyway, right?
yeah, I think 160 is a fair amount. And if you can chain them together as well. And the switching thing is really interesting as well. The issue is
Yeah.
there's no like air balloon. That'd be nice. Oh wait, no, there. Okay, in the new, maybe it's 151. There's a card that's like air balloon, or no, it's free retreat to stage twos.
Oh, is
Which
there?
is
Oh, it's a
yeah.
stadium?
No, it's a tool that's
A
like
tool.
it's free
Okay.
retreat to stage twos, which is it would be good with this.
It
Mostly
is.
just this,
Getting
but
the tool is awkward. I mean, there was a card that had free retreat with this ability, right? At what for some
no,
wasn't there?
no, but you just stick floatstone on though, and then it would have free
Hmm.
retreat. Like I think you're thinking of either Keldeo EX or the other one, the Duskmane Necrozma. What was it? Dawnwing? What Dusk? Wait.
I don't know. There was something that had some weird switching stuff that was
Oh, that's the one. I think it's
that
Dawnwing's Necrozma.
made other things happen, right? You'd switch in, you switch out, but through all the switching stuff, other Pokemon were doing things, if I recall.
I don't think that's what. I
I
don't
don't
think
know.
that's what
Other
happened.
Pokemon
I
had
think
abilities that were useful in the process. I could be wrong.
Um, I don't think that's what it is. I think it was just Keldeo because you played. I think you were playing Keldeo EX and Legacy,
Hmm.
which just has the same ability, literally the
Could be.
same name, which is good. And so that was useful. You'd even played that in Expanded, um, Grip Expanded.
Yeah, Keldeo EX is Rush In. Yeah, the exact same ability, and yeah, free retreat. So maybe that was the one with that deck, and it had it helped you do certain things. It's been a bit
Yeah, I
since I
mean,
played Legacy, and
yeah,
obviously you can't play it anymore. So
yeah. Oh, you can do it with like so you're playing Raichu and Alolan Raichu. So you'd attack with that, and you want to switch into paralyze and do
hmm
more damage, and then and then it's in the active now it's kind of stuck. So then you use Kel, you go in, you go out, and
so
then
you
you do
can
the extra damage, or even like
okay,
Urshifu, you can do it with whatever.
yeah, yeah. So the Russian has yeah. I mean, but again, it's not. You have to get a tool or something to get the free retreats, which isn't great. But and a tool just for stage twos is you're not gonna play that many decks. So
No, I think if you just buff the attack, I think it's an
yeah.
interesting Pokemon, and it has a lot of the things you need to make a good card. But I think you just need to
Hmm.
buff the damage.
Yeah, buff the damage to somewhere in the mid hundreds. And accelerating 2 energy is quite nice. So then it could be worth the efforts of playing a stage two. I
Yeah, and
think.
even the Lunala paired with it, I think is interesting.
Hmm.
Like doubling damage is good.
Yeah. So yeah. Since it evolves from the same, both from Cosmem. So it's yeah. It would be nice if something like that would make this to be a viable card. And obviously the game needs more viable cards.
Yeah, I think so. Um, it's okay. It's in a solid spot now, though.
Yeah.
Ting Lu's good.
Uh, what the game, the meta? You mean?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay. Look, good. More choices is always good, though, right? Um,
yeah, yeah,
and yeah, everybody loves to play against Tinglu. It's
yeah.
almost as
I
much
know what
fun
I'm
as
gonna
playing
do
against
today.
Block Snorlax, right?
Yeah. Oh, I could do that. Anyway, so you have one more card,
Yeah.
right?
So one more card and I think this will close us out. And this is from one of the starter decks, and one of the types that's very underwhelming is Grass type. We have Gardenia's Vigor, which potentially is a good card, right? You already were talking about how good Welder was before, and that is certainly true. Gardenia's Vigor similar, but not very good, partly because the Grass Pokemon. So superior V Star, 270 HP. Obviously goes up 2 prizes, and it's got 2 attacks, and it just doesn't it's just not designed right. I don't think it just doesn't quite cut it. So Regal Blender for Grass Colorless does 190. It's okay, but very just okay. And then you may move any amount of energy from your Pokemon to your other Pokemon any way you like. So I mean that's a nice effect. It's I'm not sure why it's there on that attack though. Okay, as I get into.
Yeah, I can explain it after, but read the other attack.
And then the V Star Power Star Winder. for one grass does 60 damage per each energy attached to this Pokemon. Then you switch this Pokemon with one of your benched Pokemon. So those are the two attacks. If you've played the starter deck, it's an awkward deck, and getting Superior V-Star to actually function the way it should, I find, is almost impossible.
Yeah, so I think the idea is that so you get energy on your Pokemon, and then you can like move it around.
Yes.
And so we can
Okay.
Gardenias. You can only Gardenias to the bench, but this Pokemon has free retreat. So then you
It
can get the
does.
energy where you want it, and then you can move it off with your attack, and then you can like Cheryl, and you can also move at one point. You can move like all your energy onto one superior, and then just do a big attack, and then like move it back after you've attacked. But of course, they're getting like knocked out all the
Right. I
time.
mean,
So it's
right.
naturally.
Yes, you can Regal. Right. The way it is now is you Regal Blender, and then you want to do the V-Star attack, so you pull all the energy onto it, and then your opponent just knocks it out for you, and you say, "Well, thank you. That was really nice." Or you move the
Yeah.
energy off, so you can because you can attack for Starwinder for one, except then you're only doing 60 damage. So it just and and after you do the Starwinder attack, I don't really want to. That's not the point necessarily to go to the bench at that point. I think the effects are kind of reversed on the two attacks, is what I think.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like all over the place. Um,
190 is fine for three. It's not horrible, but it's not good that you're going to want to play it. So the effect has to be useful. The effect's potentially useful, but not. I don't think it really helps Superior V Star that effect. So you need something else that likes grass energy, probably.
oh, I figured it. I figured it. I solved. I solved it.
Did you?
This is what Pokemon should have done.
Mm-hmm.
So we were talking about Toadscruel,
Okay.
right? So
Yes.
Starwinder should be 60 for each, or maybe even 70 for each of your Pokemon that has like an energy on it.
Okay.
Then you can like move. So you use your attack. You move the energy all around your board, and then you V-Star power. I think that would be cool.
So Toadscruel, you get a lot of energy spread around.
Yeah.
Then Regal Blender, you concentrate it. And of course, if you make it on your active, you got to hope they don't knock it out. You could have another
Yeah, no, but
superior.
I think no, but for fixing, I think to fix the V-Star power, it would be energy spread around, like each of your Pokemon with energy on it.
Yeah, I mean that would do it. And then obviously with Toadscruel, it would become very powerful, right?
I don't know if I say very powerful,
Well,
but it'd be all better, certainly.
yeah, you could do that. I mean that's a big change. And it's obviously Superior V Star is not overpowered with that change, right? 270 HP is a little on the light side.
It's okay. I'd probably
It's not
also buff its attack to 220.
the Regal Blender.
Yeah, because like the 190 is underwhelming. It doesn't,
It
it's
is.
not like the worst thing in the world. It's like Arceus levels, but pushing it up a little, one-shotting stuff easier, I think is what it needs.
Right. I mean, Arceus does 10 more, and the effect of the attack is just so much better. Accelerating energy is much more than just moving it around.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I think you should switch the effects, right? So if you talk Regal Blender, you do 190 for 3 energy. Then I want to go to the bench at that point, okay, rather than moving energy around. Because at
Okay.
that point, I have 3 energy. That's not bad. But I'm going to get knocked out the next turn, run to the bench, and then I can put up whatever I want to. They probably can't gust me up, right? They might, but you
Yeah,
can't.
and then you can Leafy Camera Poncho. Remember the secret combo,
You do
secret
have
sauce from the
well,
starter
well,
deck.
the deck has Leafy Camouflage, but again, it's doesn't the synergy's wrong, the sequencing's
Yeah.
wrong. I'm telling you, because then Starwinder, when I do Starwinder and I have a bunch of energy on it, right? Hopefully, I've done that because that's what I want to do. Then I don't want to run to the bench. At that point, I want to move the energy off the Pokemon. At that point, I think it's better then, right?
Um,
Because now let's say I get 5 energy on it. I want to do that. Starwinder runs to the bench. I don't need to attack with 5 or 6 energy again, ever.
yeah.
That other energy is wasted.
But
I
then
want to get.
that's why you move it off with the. I guess I see what you're saying.
But then right, it's just I think it's.
I think the switch to the bench is weird. The switch to the bench is weird on a V-Star power. Especially like hit and run. You can't like tech in hit and run. That's not really how it works.
No, and it doesn't make sense with that attack. Like I said, I wouldn't mind the hit and run before because I need to be setting up energy on it so I can attack for 3, hit and run. I stay safe. They probably can't knock me out. I can even leave the game a Poncho or just hope they don't have boss because they're not always going to have boss.
Yeah, or like Diancie.
Right. I could slide into Diancie or whatever, and then at that next turn I'll have at least 4 energies on it, and that's 240. That could be worthwhile, right? And then I move the energy around off it because I figure, all right, they're going to wipe me out this next turn. I think it's more viable then.
Yeah, I think that's true as well.
So
Anyway, I don't think it's going to go into that. I don't know. I think like Saphira is kind of interesting.
hmm
And also if there are other good like grass Pokemon, like a good grass basic that
yes,
say you wanted a lot of energy on, Superior would be better.
it is, and maybe with this Toad Scroll, you have energies going on. We can do something with them.
Yeah, I
Maybe
don't think that's a secret sauce.
no,
We'll
I
see.
don't think it is, look, it's an idea to try out, right? It's probably gonna. I think I think they might give you superior in the deck on the battle pass. In fact,
Uh,
I don't remember right now.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think they give you like stuff. Traditionally, they didn't really give you the same stuff in the Battle Pass that they gave you as a
In the
starter
store,
deck.
that's true.
Which I don't think that like with Chien-Pao, they didn't give you Palkia. You could just stick it in there, which is good.
Right.
So
So look, it's a weird card. The way the attacks and the effects of the attacks have been paired, it's all over the place, which is one of the things you don't like with card design.
yeah, no, I think it could be interesting. I mean, yeah, I don't want it to be random. I don't think it has some loose synergy, but it feels a little random still.
Yeah, it's really to me really awkward to set up. How you're going to want to do it? The sequencing of things is very tricky. I think a little too tricky for
Yeah,
to do 190 for three is a bit underwhelming, like we've said. So there's things that could be done to make it better. I would like to see a stronger grass attacker, especially a multi-polarized grass attacker, because grass has been not good for a while. We need to get that back. It's good for
yeah.
the format, right? Hit for grass weakness and such just makes it more
I mean,
diverse.
for just nothing's been good for been like weak to grass either. There's been like Umbreon.
Right. There's a few
That's it.
cards. Um,
Tinglu.
the new Charizard is right.
Oh yeah.
Again,
Yes,
my
Charizard, Tinglu, Umbreon. There's some.
I mean, when you look at a Pokemon, you look at its weakness. If it's grass weakness, I'm like, all right, let's go. I'm going to toss that in the deck because I don't have to worry about anything, right? It's better if you
Yeah.
have to at least think about that weakness being an issue.
Yeah. I can't think of the last time I played against a grass deck. Um, Maybe in like expanded or something.
Right. But yeah, even then, I'm not sure, right? I mean, I've seen the Superior V the starter deck occasionally, but it's probably the worst, might be the worst of the starter deck. So,
Yeah. But and I think that's all we have
yep.
for today. So tell us what you thought of this episode, or if there are any other cards that we need to fix to save Pokemon. Yeah. But we hope you enjoyed, and as always, we're excited to see you next time.
Take care.